went by, I thought it went by the
Right.
person who lived closest to the health department.
You don't have to take that.
I know.
I think he's got to.
You come back.
Yes.
Which property?
It's not too bad, but I've only done it, one location, and that's why I don't know how many, you gotta get everything taken care of.
Okay, we're going to resume our meeting.
Tom can't even read. Oh my God. Is there pictures on it?
Next on the agenda is Amy Biggs, Deputy Director position and grant approval. Amy?
Oh, boy. Thank you.
Good afternoon. A few copies for you. I'll give you both of them and then I'll speak independently about them.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I come before the commissioners seeking their favorable pass to proceed to county council in an opportunity to fulfill the deputy director position for emergency management. This position has been, as I understand, previously fulfilled, I think over the course of the last year and a half, and has remained vacant, however, part of the EMA budget as a whole. The need for this position comes with the increased responsibilities associated with emergency management. As a matter of fact, in the letter I outlined that the Office of Emergency Management is really changing and transitioning to be an arm, a local arm of the Department of Homeland Security. And this extends from the national level down to the state level. And with that has increased responsibilities associated with the county preparedness as it relates to active shooter, awareness regarding cyber threats, in addition to physical and government facilities, including the courthouse and the components that go along with the safety and security of those arenas. The state responsibilities remain as associated with emergency management that include the preparation and awareness training for our first responders, grants management, and a series of other responsibilities. The last component that's been added to the plate of emergency management has been a more active role as it relates to the safety team for the county. I've already presented on one occasion training that's required under OSHA. I have another prepared training scheduled next week. In addition to that, I've also been appointed to be the key person to ensure that our AEDs and equipment is up and current on the different facilities we have. And lastly, to provide education and remediation in injury prevention to our county employees as a whole. So with those responsibilities that have been added, it's very difficult to accomplish all those in a timely manner, being a single person in an entire department. So I'm seeking a part-time employment position to be fulfilled. I did present this before the advisory board that I report to, and they gave it a favorable pass to continue in the process. That went before the personnel committee just to ensure that there was any factoring that needed to be done regarding the salary or the hours. And I was advised that the personnel committee does not review part-time positions. So this is one of the last legs in my my presentation to come before county commissioners. So I welcome to answer any questions that you may have regarding that. As a part of your packet, I have provided an overview of the current situation, what was proposed, and what was amended by the advisory board council. And the last page of that also includes the budget line item as it was proposed and accepted for 2016.
So Amy, with this new additional training that we have to do, I guess if you weren't qualified to do this training, then we'd have to have a third party come in and do any of the training that we're doing.
That is correct. Some of the added responsibilities that come under the broad scope of Department of Homeland Security does require that you have specific credentials and clearance to be able to receive that information and disseminate it accordingly and ensure that you have the correct training in place.
Now, are you using any of this grant money? I'm trying to look at both these at the same time.
The grant is independent, but that's an excellent question. The salaries for both director deputy director, and should we ever choose to employ an administrative assistant, are covered under the state of Indiana Homeland Security grants at 50% reimbursement. So as long as the individual meets the credentials and the requirements, those funds will be reimbursed to the county.
But the numbers you're presenting already have it, the 50% level.
Yes, what I included for you would be, I'm asking for an additional appropriation in the amount of $5,925. That amount is in addition to what's already allocated in the 2016 budget. And that would be the reimbursable amount, or that would be the cost to the county to fulfill that position.
5925.
Yes, sir.
But the only concern I have with this is the way it's been presented and the way it was passed by the advisory board was at 22 and a half hours. So should you decide to take a vacation and be gone, that person can only work 22 and a half hours.
Duly noted. That's
But
typically.
when all of their part-time in the county are 29 and a half, is that right? So that's the it might be small at 7 hours, but I just think that it shouldn't be different. And I know that makes a difference in the cost, I got it, but I just don't see that should be different from any other position. And I'm not saying that this person has to work 29 and a half hours, I'm just saying
Approved
that would
for-
be the maximum they could work.
Well, part-time position, right?
Yes, sir.
Do we pay any of our other part-timers $15 an hour? All of them?
No.
So part-time people,
The pay scale is right now currently in place, set by the county council, is $10 up to a maximum of $17 for part-time help. Per hour.
so how many do we have? 1750?
I don't have that number, but there are some that are at 17 already.
And we sat here and debate whether our highway and sheriff's department deputies need a raise. And we're paying $17.50 and $15, and I guarantee you those guys don't make that full-time. I'm just saying, and I'm not against this, because I've been the one harping, because I'm getting tired of hearing Noble County to have to come down here and bail Whitley County out. I'll be honest with you. Now, you can't do it. We discussed that 5-6 months ago. But it's, we do need, I realize, someone to cover. And I've been one outspoken on that. And I don't know, being part-time, is this person who's gonna go part-time have a position now?
I don't have anyone selected at this moment in time, sir.
You don't have
This-
it?
I do not. So this would be a complete open application process, would be inviting those individuals that have the credentials to apply, and be certainly open to interviewing anyone that may be interested.
And I know we can't pick the time we have accidents,
Sure.
You never know when that's gonna be. And now, at one time when I asked you if you'd be willing to put a few of your dollars salary into this person's time, you said yes. What's your answer to me today?
I want to do what's in the best interest of Whitley County, so if that's what it takes to accomplish that. However, if you have two
I'm not sure
part-time
it would. The
individuals.
consul will make that
I
decision.
don't know that that
Yeah.
would be
Okay, I
a
know.
benefit.
Okay. Well, if it gets down to nitty and gritty when consul receives this, why, I don't know.
Would you have regular hours for this person? Is that what you're planning at, or what, how would you?
Most of it would come along with demand. Right now, there's a large influx of demand to become compliant with a lot of the issues that have been withstanding. We seem to encounter and discover things that have been incomplete over the course of the last several years. And I know, for example, one of those issues becomes an inventory from the state. And I've had to elicit assistance from the sheriff's department to validate information that, had it been done correctly initially, we would have all that information up to date and could rapidly respond to the state in order to be compliant. So the inability with the added responsibilities adds other impacts to other departments that we work with. By all means, we always wanna work collectively together, but, I think they have enough on their plate as is. So we're trying to relieve some of that responsibility by having an added person to assist with that.
Could you share with us, you and I talked about the radios. Could you share with us a little bit about that?
Yes, we just received information. I was on a teleconference with Janelle Schmidt from 911 on Friday, and part of that is an upgrade that is gonna be required by the state of Indiana. They designate that as, they call it a P25 upgrade for all of our radios. In that conference call, it was indicated to both of us that we have 272 radios that are registered to Whitley County. The information that Janelle brought forth could only identify about 75 radios. So we have a large undertaking to be able to find those radios, identify them by serial number, and input those into the database so we can validate that they're being used by the appropriate people. They haven't fallen into inappropriate hands, and in order to ensure that we are in good standing with the state for future opportunities.
Are we talking about 800 megahertz radios?
That is correct.
Only?
Yes, sir.
No UHF or VHF?
Correct.
Okay. So they show us with 272 and we found 70-some?
We have 75 that we could immediately identify that we have in possession. Now, that list, as I understand, during the conference call, came to some of the previous parties that were interned or had fulfilled the director position previously. And they very well may be accounted for, but the organizational skills were lacking a bit.
Didn't we get rid of those because, help me out, we have gone through so many radios. I don't know where you're gonna start, but we at one time had the 800s.
That was on a grant that we got the 800 radios.
That's why the government wants to know where they are, because it's grant money. Then we went to what?
We went to VHF after that.
Okay, and now we're wanting to go back to 800?
Well, the state
I
will
think it's so much
mandate that
want.
eventually.
I don't think it's so much want to.
Yeah,
I think that's where the state's mandating.
yeah, that P25 is part of that. It's a ongoing effort to standardize everything within the state, and that P25 is going to be a mandate eventually. Right now, it's a recommendation, but soon it'll be a mandate that we go to 800 radios, because they're narrowing the bands on the VHF.
Well, I had personnel tell me last week or a week and a half ago, we had a deputy on Line Street and one out in front of the jail, and they couldn't even hear each other.
We've got
They
issues
could've
with
heard better
radios.
if they'd hollered probably. But I'm saying, how did we get hooked on this? How,
I think we'd all like to know that. I have been in contact with J&K. J&K is aware of the situation, and they're gonna come before us the second meeting in April, because I wanna make sure that Don's involved in that when they come, but
yeah,
at
it's
this.
always better to run 3 than 2.
I'm concerned where there's another 200 radios.
Yeah, you got that on your
Yeah.
list too.
I'm real
Scary.
concerned about where's those other 200 radios at?
We got,
It's in that door that I've always said we're gonna open someday and we're gonna get killed by falling radios. We gotta find the door now.
Yeah.
you're too young to remember, but he'll remember. You remember Fibber McGee's closet many
Yes, I
years
do.
ago? Can you remember that? You can remember
Me and
that?
Molly.
Yeah, okay. That's
Some
enough of
people would
that.
tell
But
me about it.
I just, I'm just up
Somebody
here with
told me.
radios, and it just seems every 2 years, and this is gonna be expensive.
The 275.
We're looking into the hundreds of thousands of dollars for this. And we're what, 2 years out? And the Sloyd tax only goes so far, and you know that elephant in the room.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
But again, that's where we're fortunate to have Amy to work with us on this P25. So we're looking at not just now, we're looking at the future needs and what the requirements are gonna be.
And we don't know that.
So how do you
We
look
haven't.
for radios?
That's why I
Each
said we don't
agency,
know that.
you
No.
can ask
They
them
could
to
come
do it.
back, let's see, next
Exactly.
year 18, say you have
Good
800, they
relationships
come
with all
back
the county
20,
fire
so you
departments.
need to go back
I
to the
started
other.
with sheriff departments since I'm in their building, worked with county fire departments who were recipients of that. Takes a lot of digging through old documents and trying to identify where the ones were. Same thing with previous volunteers that assisted, in the emergency management department, have they turned in their equipment or they're gone before? So it's a new process.
Could be a lot of the fire departments have the 800s.
Yes, we talked about it at the fire chiefs meeting as well, so.
And some of the people that were, used to be EMA people that are no longer there, probably, no one checked them in.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, I'm throw it out there. If it doesn't sail, but I'd like to make a motion that we do a favorable pass to the council for additional funds, but based on 29.5 hours like every other part-time. That doesn't mean they have to work 29.5 hours, but that's the maximum they can work.
Okay, I've got a motion to make a favorable pass to council on the 29.5 hour max for a part-time deputy director.
Second for discussion.
Okay, I've got a second for discussion. Discussion?
I know the motion has in there that you leave the pay scale at $15, right? Is that
Yes,
what
sir.
you-
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, that's based on $15.
What's you have amended down to the bottom of this sheet. You say pay scale 50 or as factored by personnel committee, and you said the personnel committee did not need to factor this.
Correct. Under their current standards, they don't factor part-time positions. The basis for the $15, to provide a little further explanation, was based upon the fact of the job responsibilities and the credentials that it will take to have an individual that's qualified to be able to do this position. In addition, I did a trend analysis from the northeast area, 11 counties, to determine what their pay scales were in varied positions from director, deputy director, and administrative assistants, and that was consistent with that, as well as my consultation with Cam in HR regarding part-time employment and the scale from which to use.
The council set the part-time pay scale.
They'll have to approve it.
The one that's currently in place is 10 to 17 an hour.
One thing I will say about that, Tom, though, is that when we have new companies come before us and they request any kind of assistance or tax abatements, we always tell them that that's fine, but we want you to have a livable wage. And we frown on anyone bringing any kind of jobs in the community without a living wage. And I look at it as we need to, as a county government, provide a living wage for individuals. And especially they're gonna have to have credentials and,
Is not somebody she can just take off the street.
right.
Certain credentials.
Yeah.
And again, Homeland Security has made it to the point where, you know, it isn't the job that it was a year ago. You know, it's under Homeland Security now. It isn't under FEMA, and we were able to.
I realize that, Mr. Chairman. I also realize how we have talked about some of our regular full-time people and what an obligation we have for recommendation to increases in their pay.
Right.
And then we see kind of a new person coming on the block. And
But if we don't fix the program before we, you know, it has to be fixed at one point.
so if we fix this at $15 an hour from now on, all part-time people are gonna get at least $15 an hour.
No, because of the
That's not a
credentials
fair
that are
statement.
required here. The only reason I think that it's worth the $15 an hour truly is the credentials on this.
Do you happen to have the deputy director, I can't, I
The
think.
job description,
Yeah,
I do have a copy if you'd like to see this.
well, I think we should probably explain what makes.
Is the
credentials.
sheriff still here? Mark, I'd like to ask you a question. Is he here?
Mark had to leave it too for another meeting.
You can answer. Do all our deputies that work, or all our people in the sheriff's department, including deputies, make at least $15 an hour?
Yes,
They do?
yes.
Okay. All right.
That, you know that comp thing that we get? Well, we haven't seen much of it. Do you remember the comp thing we used to get? It has all their pays on there, but we don't get that so much anymore.
$15 an hour for an annual wage would be right around $31,000 a year. And for anyone to live on $31,000 a year is difficult. And that's why we're trying to bring the
This
wages down.
isn't the only job this person.
That's would be, I figured that was the only one that would be close to it, yeah.
Yeah, well, I,
May or may not be.
yeah,
We don't know.
I don't know
I
what's,
thought we were approving a part-time.
right,
We are.
right.
We are.
Then why do you say it may or may not be? Are you
Well-
planning on next year having this person full-time?
No, I think what, if I can elaborate, I know the discussion was, this may be an individual, this is all that they have time to accomplish. They may not have a full-time position, they may be only seeking part-time employees.
We had another position in the county where it was full-time and a person didn't get it, you know, and they told me, well, I'll take part-time if that, you know, if that gets me in the door. So there are people out there who may not have a job, this may be their only job, but they're willing to do it on a part-time basis or hours basis.
And another factor, is that this position would be responsible for responding 24/7. So this isn't a, you know, eight to four job. It is, all hours, varied hours in the evening, whenever an emergency.
But if
would be
they have
detected.
another full-time job, they won't be 24/7.
That would be the benefit of having both myself, getting 1.5 people.
But as
or-
long as, yeah.
Possible. Can't say that.
And we had that before, it's the exact same thing, situation that we had.
Sure.
And you will go to 29.5 hours, which keeps them part-time, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it keeps them part-time, but it's kind of consistent with the rest of our positions. It can't be over 29 and a half.
Right.
It may not be 29 and a half, but it can't be over 29 and a half.
Call for the question.
Okay, we've got a motion, we've got a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand, opposed, the same. Thank you, Amy.
Chairman, I appreciate that. I appreciate your support, and I'll let you know the outcome as I go before council. Not to belabor my area, because I know we have several people waiting, but the second agenda item that I have is an approval for acceptance of a grant for the Hazardous Materials Emergency Response Preparedness. In my cover letter, I identified that this grant had been previously submitted under the former director, Charlie Heflin, and it has been awarded to us locally, should we choose to accept it. This grant has specific use of it to be related to equipment, supplies, or training for our first responders as it relates to hazardous materials. I went before the Whitley County Fire Chiefs Association last week and vetted this information to identify if there was a need for this training to be offered. And indeed, they did express interest in providing this training. We have a lot of leeway in regards to what type, so we can really narrow the focus to meet the best needs of the first responders. The grant amount is $58.52. It does have a match component, as identified on their second page there, of $1,170.50. The unique component about this grant, however, is those funds can be matched in what they call soft or for in-kind funds, meaning if we conduct planning meetings or exercises, all those in attendance and their hourly wage can be factored into that component for match, therefore not having any financial investment on the county's part. Having reviewed that grant, and I have the entire grant for review, it is 23 pages, but it's similar to the existing grants that we've received from the state. All it would require is our acceptance. The state now, as I came before you before, accepts those grants, not via blue pen anymore, but via an e-signature. And we have two individuals that are e-signators, first one being Jana and the second being Commissioner Amber. So with your approval or questions, we would like to accept this grant on behalf of the state of Indiana to provide this training to our local first responders.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept this grant?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, we got a motion.
Second.
Got a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same.
Thank you, Jana.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Julie Jensen Kelly, YMCA Corporate Challenge and Grant Request. After all that?
After all that,
Can you do the?
I have, I can do the YMCA. I have a request, we would like to participate in the corporate challenge again this year through the YMCA, which does require $500 through Y. We participated, I think this is probably our 4th year that we have done that, and everyone's had a great time. It's given the employees an opportunity to get together after hours and participate as team members. We have not won first place yet, but we've come in second plenty of times. It's an enjoyable event, and I think that everyone that's participating will probably agree with that. So I would like to ask the commissioners for $500 for the line, for the entry fee.
Any questions for Julie?
Where would we, where's somebody come from in the past? Does we have a wellness or anything?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It may have come out of medical.
Last year it came out of the commissioner's budget in county general.
What line item do you know?
It was dues and subscriptions, so it'd be
Under what?
dues and subscriptions,
Dues and
so
subscriptions.
it'd be,
Rather do that than flowers.
How much is in there?
Kind of was my thought on it too.
As long as I don't have to be involved.
I'm not gonna say anything. I
We'd
feel
have-
the same
Then
way.
we'd have to go
As
through
of
life
today.
insurance part.
it was roughly $2,800 in there today.
How much?
So, 2,800.
2,800. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion, we got a second. Any further discussion? And that will come out of the commissioner's budget in dues and subscriptions. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Thank you, Julie.
I think I want to add one more thing on the agenda.
Sure. Oh, okay. Grant request.
Yes, what I'm here for is just ask for a favorable pass to the council. We applied, through the Indiana Judicial Center for a grant. We applied at the end of, 2015 for a grant for a Veterans Court coordinator. Veterans Court is a problem-solving court that many counties throughout the state of Indiana have problem-solving courts. They're, drug court, veterans court, domestic violence courts. We do not have one here. When Judge Fall took the bench, that was one of the things that he had on his list of things that he really wanted to accomplish. And so we've been kind of working towards it. Usually the Judicial Center does not have that sort of monies available, but through the House Bill 1006 and with the collaboration plans, they were giving some money to put forth for a veterans court specifically. And so we applied for that grant, and we were supposed to have the answer by the 1st of January. We actually got it last week. And so we had originally requested like $73,000 basically a 1 year salary plus benefits, plus training, plus equipment like a computer. And they awarded us $61,000. The one thing they took out of what we requested was the training part, because some of that training with the Veterans Court comes free. And so that, I think, was one of the reasons they took that out of our grant request. Now, we always know that when we have a grant like this, and you wanna hire a person to do that, you have to be upfront with them and tell them, you know, it's a grant, and without the grant available, then obviously the job is not available, and we understand that. We're always, you know, upfront with any, you know, applicant that would apply. And so we would like to accept the grant. We are on the agenda for council first meeting of April, and then there's a Veterans Court training at the end of April. So the timing is a little bit tight, to be honest with you, but I think that we hopefully can accomplish getting everything done. Getting the job description would have to be factored by the personnel committee, and we do have a rough draft of that. It just needed to be kind of approved by Judge Paul and by Paula when she returns from vacations. Just ask for a favorable pass on it.
Julie, is this something that, when they go to before this court, that they recommend a third-party intervention? I guess, how does that work?
With Veterans Court, basically what Problem Solving Court does is it takes away the adversarial approach with the prosecutor. The prosecutor is part of the team. You have team members that include probation, community corrections, the prosecutor, the judge, the public defender, in most cases it's a public defender, and a veterans justice outreach person that comes from the VA. And you meet as a team to kind of come up with a treatment plan for that vet that would best serve them. We've been discussing it for, probably over a year. We have all of our team members in place. The prosecutor, Judge Paul, the probation department, community corrections, all the players are there. But without having some monies available to have someone coordinate that, I think in the beginning maybe we thought we could just add that to something that we were already doing. But it's quite an undertaking, especially in the beginning, because you have to get certified by the Judicial Center. That's a process, a lot of policies and procedures. A lot of those are already put into place with the drug and alcohol program, and so we can, for lack of a better word, copy and paste some of that.
Right. So it's looking at long-term solutions.
Yeah, Problem Solving Court's a whole different, there's a carrot at the end for the person to cooperate and finish the program, but it's long-term, and there's a lot of work that the veteran or the person in Problem Solving Court has to accomplish during that time period.
Is there a local match to this grant?
No.
Okay, where would this person physically be?
And that was one of the things that Judge Paul and I have been discussing, and I believe they would, at this point, they would probably physically be out with us at the community corrections or possibly the lower level probation as far as their physical location.
Do you think that there's gonna have to be any facility changes or costs to?
I don't anticipate that at all. We did write in for like a computer into the grant, which they did approve. And so that's probably the biggest piece of equipment. And then the training side of it, some of that is initial training, and then some of it's ongoing, but we're all required to do that as well.
Do I have a motion?
I'd make a motion, we accept the grant.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and we've got a second for a favorable pass for the grant for the Veterans Court. A $61,000 grant? Okay, all those in favor raise your right hand, opposed the same. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is Scott Wagner, home condemnation.
From time to time, I'll come before the commissioners regarding properties that need cleaned up, and we hire contractors to do such. It's a little bit different where we have a situation on Loon Lake. This property at 7191 North Brown Road, it's been considered unsuitable habitation because it was disconnected from the sanitary sewer last fall. Numerous attempts by a letter and through the court to get a hold of the owner. The owner's not showed any response. However, the sewer district has identified, and I have identified, that the person who owns the property continues to visit the property, go inside the house. I'm not sure whether they're using any facilities or not. So our only recourse was to go to the court to request an order to board the house up. And I have for you 2 quotes, one from MC Wheeler, one from Protex, regarding winterizing the plumbing of the property, so that if we do close that property up, obviously we're not gonna cause issues with the plumbing if it stays condemned till next year. In addition to the Protex bid, they also put in a bid in there with boarding up the 2 entrances, the front and the back entrances, so the entry can't be made into the property. I see Mr. Wheeler's here today, if you wanna amend his bid to include boarding up the front back entry with that, they're only about less than $13 difference in the bids.
So these bid on the same thing?
Yeah, except for the boarding up. Right now, the bid from Wheeler's is just for the, winterizing the pipes. However, I don't know how much more cost it'd be to do that, just vote to board up the 2 entrances. Unfortunately, I'm not able to get a hold of the person. I've called them twice. Obviously sent many letters. You had in your email that I sent out with your packet, you had the full order from the court. We never attempt to get a hold of this person, placard the house, just been no response. We have a good working relationship with the sanitary sewer district, and whenever they do have a disconnection, we go out and board up the house, and generally, we have a turnaround time of less than a week. Simply because people wanna live in their house, and they can if we're condemning it. But this gentleman, I don't know where he's living, I do believe this is probably an inherited property, and he can't afford to pay the tax, so he's let it pass, and now we just gotta board the house up.
How and why did they unhook the sewer? What do you mean when you say it's not hooked up?
Right, each house is connected to a lift station
Yeah.
with a manhole, and they have the ability to close that connection inside the manhole to that property.
Who has that?
The sewer district.
So this individual did not unhook it?
No,
What you say
What I'm saying
unhook.
is after a certain amount of time, he will no
No.
longer be able to flush the toilet because it'll back up in the house.
Right, well.
So, and he can't live like that.
Okay.
But he got shut off because he didn't pay his bill?
Correct.
Okay.
And this is the first instance since the early 1990s, since they've had sewer, that we've taken somebody to court to have them condemn that house, to board it up and deny entry. If approved, I'll be accompanying the company to the site with the sheriff's department to ensure that they can gain entry to the house and do the necessary repairs.
So we don't know for sure if he's living there.
No, it's not responded, placard the house, several attempts have been made to go to the house, there are footprints and tire tracks.
I used to see this individual around, but I haven't seen him ever. His father used to.
They tell me that his grandmother or his mother, he basically lived off of her income, and once she passed, he's not been able to make payments.
I see this one, are you gonna shut the well down and stuff, or?
Yeah, well.
It says trip, snap in well, or drain 2-inch pipe, or what are you
Right.
gonna do with the well?
Well, currently, I don't know that I have jurisdiction to turn off electricity or gas to the house. Basically, our impression is if the person were to gain entry after it's boarded up, turn on the water, unless it's been disconnected, you could then bring water back in the house. So there's a little bit difference there. Also, I didn't know, Kim, if you wanted to include in your bid, the boarding up of the 2 doors, give a bid of $300.
What are you talking about? Piece of plywood on the outside screwed fast?
Yep.
Yeah.
In that case, you got a local company and you only got
Yeah.
$12 difference, and,
Are the taxes being paid?
I have not checked on that yet. As far as I know, they were not on last year's tax sale, so,
Probably, no, hadn't been taxed.
no, so as far as I know, yes. Whether the springs have been paid or will be.
If MC Wheeler's willing to board it up, I'd make a motion, we accept their price. They're just down the road, and that makes good sense.
And whatever cost, we'll put it back on the tax rolls.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, assuming that eventually they're gonna pay for it somehow, so.
Or somebody can buy a house.
Okay, I've got a motion to accept the MC Wheeler and Sons.
Or license, and the reason I asked about the well, if you're gonna do anything with the well, you should be licensed, not this,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
If we get in trouble, he comes back, and well, who did it? Well, he wasn't licensed to work on it. So, second motion.
Okay, we've got a motion, we've got a second. Any further discussions? All those in favor, raise your right hand, oppose the same, so we'll approve the MC Wheeler and Sons quote for $300. Thanks, Scott. Okay, John, we've already taken care of. Michael Barton.
Copies of the annual bid that you guys signed, there's one for you, Janet.
Annual report,
Yeah, what'd I say?
bid,
That's next.
okay. Thanks.
Would you like me to give you the quick tour through this, or do you just wanna have it, depends how fast you wanna go today? If you look on the, I can do this in 2 or 3 minutes, if you look on the
Okay.
first page,
Okay.
at the very top, motor vehicle highway, it'll say 589,591, da-da-da. Okay, that's the money we ended up with, basically 600,000. Local road and street ended the year with 105,217. That's pretty good. The difference is in local road and street, we only get in $30,000 a month. Takes a long time to get any money. By the time June gets here, we usually are up in the $300,000 range. And in the past, I always like to use local road and street to start off our ceiling program until that money ran out, and then jump into MVH. That'll be up to the new guy. Cume Bridge, 600,000, that's Brandon's, I can tell you, of course, they got some money in November when taxes were paid, and that moved that number up to 600,000. You'll see the figure down here at the bottom, it says total receipts, stay in that left column. And it'll say basically 2.9 million, that's the budget for the highway. 345, probably that is referring to a high number we had there in local road and street, probably about ceiling time. Okay, you get back down to the bottom, and again, it'll say total disbursements, 2.9 million, that's our total budget again. And the 589, again, is what we ended up the year in MVH. Next to it, local road and street. Okay?
So you're looking at actual disbursements rather than budget here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
No.
so it's got line 1 of 589, and then you took in 2.9, you paid out 2.9, so essentially you ended up with the same numbers you had at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it.
And then the next thing when I get to it will be the trucks, and
Okay.
that 600,000 is additional money that we have, and that's why we were able to buy 2 trucks, actually 3 trucks. We bought a bucket truck and 2 trucks, that'll come out of that 600,000. Page 2, quickly, it lists the wheel tax, surtax, the total of those two, 763, 455. I think the wheel tax, if I remember right, is around 400,000. Surtax must be the difference there. So that's the money that came into us. Additionally, besides MVH and local road and street, that is basically the annual report. When you get into these other pages, it talks about personal services, the different areas of the budget that we have, maintenance and repair, construction, reconstruction, that kind of thing, but still at the bottom, total operating disbursements, 2.9 million. The back part of this, it basically asked us to list the ceiling that we've done, the roads that we've have done, any projects that we had, that type of thing. Those were what the last 4 or 5 pages are. The very back, it lists how many employees we have. And then there's bridge projects for Brandon that he had. It looks like there's 3 there. So it's a complete reporting of the year, basically.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Michael, where do we stand on leases? I know that we leased a couple of trucks or leased
Lease
one.
was paid off this year in January, so we were back to 0 to start the year. We actually had to use some of the money that I put in the budget for this year for some things we're gonna buy for that last payment. We had some money left, not enough to make full payments, so we just, you know, it's all together when you put the budget in with what's left over from last year. So it makes a little difference on the 3 things that we're buying, whether the new guy will have to go in for some additional money. I told them I wouldn't, I'd just put it in the budget for next year, whatever they're gonna need to complete the payment, cause one of those is gonna be a lease purchase and one of them is a complete payout right off the bat, so they will need to go back for some additional money, or just put it in the budget, you know, so. Sorry, guys. Okay, W. Jones was our only bidder for additional equipment. That figure was $69,632. So we accepted that. We do advertise that and send that out, plus anybody that bid the year before, we send bid work to them, you know, to fill out and bid again. Now with that, we are allowed, I actually have that here, I would show that to, usually don't see you sitting there this time of the day.
You're supposed to be.
It means you're wanted somewhere else, it means you're wanted somewhere else. That is the Indiana code that allows for 2 things to be bought. In this case, both the additional, the underbody and that kind of thing, and the truck. As long as they give us the same price and do not raise it, we are allowed to buy a second vehicle. So that's what that is. Okaying both of the additional stuff, and this is the letter that we have that is saying that they will give us the additional, or the same price on a second vehicle and second equipment. Okay, and on the truck, the truck was $120,441 from Selking International, and it was $130,000.
200.
Yeah, and there's a Peterbilt, I think. I've got theirs.
Peterbilt, the 4-way.
Yep, right there. And so, what I had to do was look over that they met specifications. Selking did meet specifications and are $10,000 lower. And on buying 2 trucks, these are tandem axle dump trucks with all of the equipment for winter and underbodies and that kind of thing. $10,000 lower on the 2 trucks, it's $20,000 savings. So I would ask you to accept Selking International for the trucks. They take about 90 to 100 days. Actually, they say 60 to 90, but it's usually 90 days for delivery of those trucks, so I will not be here to see them.
Tom, I need your help on this one. Didn't we agree in safety committee that we needed backup cameras?
They are in the bid.
They are, okay.
Yeah, they are part of the specs.
Okay, thank you.
You're buying one and leasing the other.
Yes,
Okay.
at 2.9% interest. It's pretty low, but it was a way to spread out the money for the next guy without taking it all away and having him start with not much money, so it was kind of a.
I would so move we buy the 2 trucks from Selking as recommended by our highway director.
Okay, we've got a motion for the 2 trucks from Selking.
Second for discussion.
Got a second? Discussion?
So, we're gonna pay $190,000 cash for one, and then we're gonna lease the other one.
Yes,
How long is the lease?
2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
Or you're just gonna bang, bang and be
Yeah,
done?
yeah, because what I was recommending, what I was suggested, is for whoever makes out the budget in June, just go ahead and put the additional money they need in the budget. That way they won't have to come back in for an additional amount during the year.
Is the lease through Selking?
Yeah, through one of their people that they used the last time.
Do you know what the interest rates are on that?
2.9.
It wasn't that guy before you brought in here that became
No,
my best friend,
no,
was it?
no.
I can't deal with it, I cannot deal with it.
I figured my number would be given out if I did that.
Possibly.
No.
Now, what motion are we making?
Okay, we got a motion to approve the bid for Selking at $130,200, and for W.A. Jones for the body itself.
$190,073 for each truck.
Right.
But I guess my question was, we're making a motion that he goes to council for the money?
I have the money.
Oh, okay. We're approving the bids.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Got
just.
it. Got it. Okay.
Okay, we got a motion, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Motion for the W.A. Jones.
That was for Selking and W.A. Jones. Okay, we've got 2 things. Well, we've got EMS and we've also got Highway Director. What's your preference on?
We got people here for both, I think, so
Okay.
makes me no difference.
Let's go with Highway Director to start out. We had executive session on March 7th to meet with all the candidates for Highway Director. We actually scored each one of them, and I guess we're open for discussion on Highway Director at this point.
Listen to what you guys have to say, whatever, if you have comments,
I guess, Mr. Chairman, I would like to suggest that we ask Brandon to serve as an interim for a period of time to see if a person can serve as an engineer and in charge of the highway department. I believe he was the highest scoring
Yes.
person too. So.
Do you have a set amount of time that you were thinking about?
Well, I think it has to be at least through the end of the year. I think you have to give them, I'm afraid 6 months isn't enough time.
After these ones,
To the end of the year.
Just a year to go through a winter.
9 months.
First blizzard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on doing something like that, Dan?
Well, I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around, since it's the first I heard it, I have no reaction to it positively or negatively. I'm just trying to think, are we okay with all, is the job of engineer at will?
Yes.
Yes.
That's at
Yes,
will.
it
Yes.
is.
And this would obviously be at will as well. No, I don't think there's, I don't see it, I mean, if you went through the entire roster of employees and try to save money by combining jobs, that would certainly be okay for you to do that. So, in my view, so I think that the only question then becomes job description, allocation of duties, stuff like that, which you'd have to come up with some kind of temporary, would it be the same hours? I don't know, I'm just throwing stuff out there.
Okay, let me throw this at you.
Okay.
What if we did a contract for that position to be able to, you know, it's a new position, so, to give each side an opportunity.
So it would be cancelable at the will of either party then? Yeah, I wouldn't have any objection to doing a contract cancelable at will by either side, since it's, an experiment, or whatever else you want to call it, be part of an experiment. But yeah, I think that a contract would probably be the sensible way to do it. That'd be easier than changing county ordinances or employment manuals, or, I'm not saying that any would have to be changed, but it seemed to me that'd be a lot cleaner way to attempt it. So.
So you're going to combine both jobs into one contract.
Yes.
If we're unhappy with one job, that means the contract is null.
Well, yeah, when I was answering, I was assuming that engineer was still at will, but highway department was under contract. That's what I was assuming when I answered.
And truly, that's the way it should be, is the highway would be the one under contract, and that would give us the opportunity as an experiment, really, to try
Right.
that out. And engineer is, it is an at-will job.
It's at will anyway, so
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I would not want to make the engineer job at will, because you would establish, or by contract, I
Okay.
mean, because you would be establishing a precedent that you would make some jobs at contract, which you don't want to do. This is a special circumstance, and it's worth an experiment.
There are other counties that do this. It's not something that we're truly experimenting with,
Okay.
but there
Yeah,
are
I
other
know that.
counties.
All
that-
right. Yeah, I mean, I don't see any other problem with it.
Okay.
That just jumps out at me, but I'm just hearing it right now, so.
I would like to know a couple things. I see Brandon is here. Are you willing to do that?
Yes.
Do you have the hours to do each?
I believe so. I'm gonna put in what time I need to, is my thought.
Well, I realize that, and I'm not trying to be difficult, I'm just trying to iron this out, before we get too far into it. First place, I think 9 months too long, but if that's what you two decide, that's fine. But on the hours, I don't know, say, and I take it you're gonna have, what do we call him, your assistant down there?
The foreman.
Foreman or,
supervisor-
okay,
Foreman, supervisor, sure.
okay. So they will report to you. If there is an issue out when the men are working, and that comes under your jurisdiction because you're head of the department now, will you leave this job and get right out there, or what? How's that going to be handled?
yes, I will definitely.
So you
My
drop,
thought is
I'm
that-
just saying, I don't believe that this is a one-man's job. I'll be honest with you. I think it's ahead of our engineering, but you do an excellent job with your people up there and ditches and everything else. But I also believe the highway is a full-time. Now, I might be mistaken. We can find out. We went with one job here. Now we're bringing on an assistant. And there's been a couple issues during that time. But we banked on coverage from other counties and got. But I don't anticipate this being from other counties, help. We need help with our highway. And I think that the assistant, whether that's an increase in pay, what does done, you're probably gonna maybe, I don't know, going to redo his job description.
Well,
Would
at
that
thi-
have to be done or
At this
not?
point, if you put it under contract, I don't think it would have to be, would it, Dan?
Yeah, I think as the job description as engineer would remain the same, and then so how's the compensation, you intend the compensation to work?
Well, that would have to be worked out also.
was my next question, salary.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, you'd have to spell out to me, to have a good contract that's enforceable, that's understandable, you'd have to have the compensation spelled out. We would have to recognize that he's currently an employee of the county, what his additional duties would be, and some of the things that Tom's asking questions about, how, you know, how the conflicts in job demands are resolved, who decides those. If there is a conflict that can't be resolved, then, you know, you come back here and you resolve them, does Pam resolve them? I mean, some of those kind of things, I'm not trying to make it too complicated, but it's gonna have to be.
Things that have to be
laid out.
addressed.
Well, it does, and I don't think we're sitting here today, at least in my mind, giving Brandon the job. I think we're saying, we'd like to look at this. We got a lot of things to talk about. Salary, there's a lot of things we gotta talk about. I just think we wanted to move forward with the issue for now.
Right, well, I think, in other words, I'm hearing you say you want me to maybe try to draft some kind of potential agreement, which I would like you guys to give me some input each on what you would wanna see in it. I would try to come up with a draft, have you review it, and probably Brandon would need to review it too to see.
Okay, as I understand your point, okay, let's go from this.
Okay.
We're either going to, split this, one person's gonna be in charge, right? Or Brandon will stay there and we'll hire someone else. Is that what we're deciding, whether we want Brandon or one?
No, if I were to make a motion, the motion would be that effective immediately, we begin working with Brandon and Dan and whoever to see if this is a workable proposition. And if all parties don't agree, then we move on to Plan B, whatever that might be.
Do you have a county that they do this in, so I might be able to.
Does Huntington do that?
No, I don't.
Do you know, Michael?
Michael, do you know?
Does Huntington do it?
Yeah, they do. He's not an engineer, but they put him in charge of the bridge program. I think there are 3 counties in the state of Indiana where the engineer is also the engineer and the director. The question always comes down to everybody, and the same in Huntington, is does the lead person or the engineer here, what are his duties in the winter? And that's usually what it comes down to. If he's in charge of, the same as I was, you have to be in there and answer the phone, and you make the calls in the winter, then that's a big part of it. If you say no, then he's missing a lot of work that he probably should be in charge of. But the guy in Huntington's in charge of winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Huntington guy is, and Does he, do you know that they have a contract for him down there, or how they do that?
I had a contract, and they almost do all contracts down there, so I would assume so.
So Bob Garrett would, he
Yes,
would, okay,
yes.
that's what I'm trying to find out, if I contact somebody, okay. Yeah.
My motion, if I made it, would be that we pursued the possibility.
Okay, the only issue I've got with you being gone next meeting,
I think you guys should forge ahead on that one, but I don't think we don't have.
yeah, we don't have a lot of time, cause 22nd, is that your last day then, Michael?
The 21st Thursday is the last day. Friday morning, the 22nd would be the new guy.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but I think you need to forge on. I
Okay.
apologize.
Okay, we got a motion. I'll second that. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same.
Nothing
2-1.
against you, Brandon, it's a position.
No, and I think we all understand your
It may
position.
not work out
Yep.
that way. It may not work out.
Yep. And you brought some good points up too.
Yeah, right.
Okay, next item will be EMS. We've been dealing with this for quite a while here. Don brought us an agreement together and a proposal. And
Right.
I think
To me, it's either six.
the conclusion on that was that maybe we're trying to micromanage more than possible. I know that Don there's disagreement between commissioners on that, on what we need, what the proposal is. I think, and in talking to Don, I think the big issue is transfers. Wouldn't you agree? More than anything and if that was solved.
Inter-hospital, not just transfers. The issue is inter-hospital transfers.
Okay. And you're saying not only between, well, right now we're talking Parkview and you're saying Parkview and Lutheran also, or whoever, is that?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's I guess there's two issues here. One is we're paying the money. I think we should be able to set some ground rules. And the second is you've had someone come to you and it's also interested in doing it. So how are you gonna deal with that one? I think those are the two issues. But to go back to your question, I think that the inter-hospital transfers are a huge issue. It takes one ambulance. You only have 3 ambulances in the county. And an inter-hospital transfer takes 2 hours, so for that 2-hour period of time. Then when you back them up back to back to back, I think we're shorting our citizens of an emergency ambulance.
And I think the other issue is, the EMTs, the lack of experience with EMTs at this point.
Well, I guess it's safe to say that the longevity has decreased significantly, I think, from previous times.
And I guess one of the issues I think that Janelle had was that the EMTs were getting lost, and in my discovery on this, what I'm finding out is that we've not been part of their communication system. We've denied Parkview on doing that, and Huntington County, Noble County, LaGrange County is part of that, right? And okay, and when they are part of the communications system, they're given a computer that gives them locating equipment, AVL, so that when they're dispatched, they're given location and they're given directions on the computer. And I think from what I'm told, that they're not since we're not part of the system, that we don't get those computers and they're not given that information. We have to count on dispatch to help. Is that true?
But we do have the capability of AVL. So whose responsibility is that it's not in the ambulances? I'm not sure. I don't have an answer to that.
Well,
one. I'm just
they've
throwing
at no cost to us, they've asked that if they could provide that. As part of that system.
the
that-
regional dispatch.
Regional dispatch, yes.
Okay. I guess I think that's a separate issue, but.
The regional dispatch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a separate issue. I'm going back to the issue at hand is I created a document that says this is what we would like in an EMS system. We're gonna pay for this system. This is what we would like in this EMS system, and then giving anyone qualified the opportunity to respond and give a proposal for that. So that's what was, was on the counter. And now you and I talked, and I said, look, the real issue here, because quite frankly, I feel like I'm on an island. The real issue here is making the current EMS system better. And to me, the way you're gonna do that is quit taking ambulances that belong to us, there are ambulances, and quit taking them and sending them on inter-hospital transfers. We own 4 ambulances, we need 3. We could give Parkview an ambulance at no charge and ask them to staff it with their staff somewhere within the hospital and make those transfers so that we can leave our 3 ambulances in the county for emergency runs.
So if there was, say, a transfer made by and I have no problem with that, with designating a ambulance to make transfers. However, what if that one, and you say it's 2 hours minimum, what if another transfer comes in where it has to be, that person has to be transferred? What do we do then? Are we back in the same, say, no, I'm sorry, our designated transfer, and this gets back, how do we, and I mean all of us here, how do we solve this transfer issue?
Right.
I think that's.
And my only response I can come up with is that Willie County EMS does not do inter-hospital transfers. So when you ask how do we solve it if there's 2 in a row, Parkview has multiple ambulances of their own. That should be their responsibility to see those transfers get done.
Would we, here again, would we put this within our contract? Does this need to be in the contract we have with Parkview? Hey, this, if there is another, you fine, but don't take a truck out of our ambulance out of our.
But I think we're ignoring the situation if that happens, that if it's a transfer that somebody has brought in and they can't handle it at Parkview Whitley, are we gonna wait for another transfer, for the transfer ambulances? And we're talking about Whitley County residents here, we're not talking just.
Not always.
Well.
I know, but not always. Okay, let's go with, because there's exceptions, and I don't know if you've read read it or not, but I think there are some viable exceptions. Because I think there are times when, okay, it's in the addendum, It is the county's desire that its ambulances can only be used for emergency transfers in which a delay would cause significant and likely threat to life or function. Some examples would include STEMIs, level 1 traumas, epiglottitis, dissecting aneurysm, a stroke patient that is receiving immediate intervention, and any other need for emergent intervention when a patient is going directly to an emergency department or operating room. So if you want to boil it down, you could boil it down to, if it's non-emergent, we don't make the transfer, and if it's going to another hospital and direct admit to a room, we don't make the transfer. But otherwise, that's exceptions, and I believe those are good exceptions, because those items I mentioned would likely cause significant and likely threat to life or function.
In our current contract, we have that, and it deals with transfers that, but it says may, emergency transfers may be approved. But it doesn't, I mean, it doesn't specifically say that this is, you can do this or you can't do this.
Okay, I'm not not familiar with that, okay.
Hold
okay.
on 1 second.
Yep, okay.
I think I hit contracts in there.
Dan, did you have something?
No, I was just saying, if you were looking for, are you talking about the current contract?
Yes.
Yeah, I have it right here. I brought it tonight.
Okay, on page 2, the hospital should not be restricted in its operation of emergency medical services to Whitley County, Indiana, where transportation outside of the county is necessary for reasonable needs of the patient and/or pursuant to a mutual emergency response agreement with other Indiana counties for emergency disaster request or because of patient care needs. So it deals with that, and it just says that they shall not be restricted in this.
And I guess I'm saying they should be restricted to a certain degree. Inter-hospital transfers should not be for the convenience of the hospital. They should be for the expediency of the patient.
And that's kind of what this says. It's not to be restricted unless, you know, for emergency purposes or for a mutual response agreement with other Indiana counties and patient care needs, but it doesn't really go into detail on that as to whether it be a transfer to a nursing home or and I understand what you're saying, but they're you know, they're within the agreement right now, but we need to tighten that up, and I agree. Dan, if we'd go to an extension on the current contract with you working with Parkview to mediate the transfers, what does that do as far as our ability if someone else wants to come in and bid on that?
Well, I think that I think it probably sets the ground rules for the same type of provision if that new bidder would step in, that if you're at this, you know, you're really, what you're negotiating is language for whoever is gonna get the contract ultimately.
Right.
So either way, you're gonna have to negotiate that term if that's of concern based upon past service. So, yeah, I mean, now it can be a little different because one entity you negotiate with says, okay, yeah, I'll do that, another one says, no, I don't wanna do that, I wanna do this. And so, it's not impossible to do it that way. So I would say because what you guys are really gonna end up saying is, and what a contract really is this is the minimum we expect out of you, whoever you are, whether you're the current contract holder or somebody else. So, yeah, I mean, the answer doesn't come a roundabout way of saying yes, that can be negotiated.
Randy still here?
Randy Copeland?
Never here.
I don't think I saw him.
Okay.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You say there, on your duty last night, there were 8 transfers between 7 PM and 4:40.
Correct.
Okay,
Just last night.
just last night.
We were at a level 0, which meant all of our resources were exhausted 3 times. And my concern, I'm looking at it South Whitley, well, Whitley County altogether, but South Whitley, there wasn't a truck, an ambulance in South Whitley from 6:15 PM until 5:30 AM the next morning. The ambulance was gone because of transfer. We need to get a hold of it. We need to get a grasp on this.
Would you agree, Randy, that the transfers are probably the biggest issue here?
I would say, yeah. Because, you know, when there's transfers going out, then we pull our resources and we move trucks around, and then it leaves areas uncovered. And sure, we can count on, sometimes we can count on Huntington County and Noble County to put a truck on, but last night, for instance, we called Parkview Dispatch, said, can you put a truck on standby? And they said, well, we had to pull one of our trucks, but we have Noble County. So we had a Noble County ambulance at 33 and 9 covering the rest of our county. So if there's a cardiac arrest or an accident at 114 and 950 West, that's not good.
Why is it, do you happen to know why is it they won't come into Whitley County?
I don't.
Okay.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes. A couple weeks ago, I think they came in. Otherwise, they sit at the county lines.
Okay. But I wanna go on record as saying, because I've heard various definitions, but the definition of level 0 is that your own resources are exhausted. You can't say, oh, we are not level 0 because there's an ambulance in Kendallville or in Huntington or even at the county line. Level 0 to me means there are no Whitley County assigned ambulances available. Now, does anybody deny that or say I'm not right? What's your definition of level 0?
The same.
We've got Chief LaRue here also. Have you got any indication of, or any thoughts on this with the EMS contract?
As a Chiefs Association, we put Amy in charge of being a representative to you for that, if
Okay.
that's possible.
Amy?
Sure.
Thank you.
I have a letter for you that we drafted as part of the Fire Chiefs Association. We met last week and kind of discussed this issue, knowing that it was coming up. And on behalf, they provided some examples on the second page to you of recent accounts. But I would like to read this aloud for the record, since it does come from multiple parties on behalf of the county. So, to the Whitley County Commissioners. The Whitley County Fire Chiefs Association discussed the topic of EMS response at our last meeting on 3/16/16. It is our understanding you are in the process of reviewing information for future proposals. In light of this information, we felt it may be beneficial for you to be aware of some of the issues we encounter with the current system. Please understand we share these experiences with you in order to find solutions and, if possible, improve service to our communities. Our mission is to provide the best level of service possible and save lives. Please see the attached email, which lists just a few examples of the service we experience in the field. Other departments are working on their specific encounters and may have more information in the future. We respect and appreciate your role in deciding who and how the EMS service is provided in the county. However, as partners in the delivery of this service, we felt obligated to express our concerns so that the future program can be improved. We would welcome the opportunity to be involved and provide feedback, so if you would like to reach out to us for more insider information, please feel free to make contact with one of us in the townships. Sincerely, on behalf of the Whitley County Fire Chiefs Association. And on the example page, these were just a few, since we had limited time to provide this information from our last meeting. Some examples of service from different areas. So from Washington Township, you have an example there. From Thorn Creek Township, you have an example. And on the back side, you have some representative from Columbia Township as well. One other statement regarding that is there may be more forthcoming. And as a group, we have, from a unified standpoint, I would like to represent those when and if they occur, so you have that awareness as you review this information and make decisions moving forward. These were just some examples of what they were able to account for. I know their primary concern is we deal with a lot of 1050 or vehicle accidents in the county, and due to the high rate of speeds and the roads that they travel, oftentimes have critical patients in need. So we do fly the helicopters from time to time, but the necessity of that golden hour, if you will, of getting those patients to that critical care. And that was what kind of came through that. There was an example from Smith Township where they had 5 critical patients. It's not on that list, and I apologize because he didn't send me the email. But five patients, 3 of which were critical, and they had consumed all of the ambulances available to them immediately, and yet needed additional resources. So I lend that to you, and all of the fire chiefs expressed an interest in reaching out and being available. If you'd like to gather us together and one or 2 of you meet with us, they're more than open to providing you constructive information from which to make better decisions.
And this goes back to I know you said there were 5, there were 3 critical, but all the ambulances, regardless, Sherbrooke, Plum City, Southwood, were not available. Is that?
They were utilized on that one incident, and additional resources were needed because of the number of patients that were there.
All of them went
To that particular incident.
And I'd also say that in the period of time that I was with the EMS, our ambulances were configured to take care of 2 patients. And I don't think, if I'm wrong, tell me, but I don't think you can do that any longer. I think they're configured for 1 patient now.
I can't comment on that, sir.
Well, I can tell you in my time, they were configured for 2. You had the stretcher and you had the squat bench.
With the size of the cots these days, I would venture to say that you
Well, we
are
didn't have
correct.
cots quite that big, so.
Providing service to 1
Mhm.
patient for that.
Yep.
And then we all have those extenuating circumstances and situations that arise. But again, the takeaway from this is that the Fire Chiefs Association is interested and would like to be involved and are willing to assist you in providing information for your benefit in negotiating what may come in the future.
But my fellow commissioners, and I understand this, I think the concerns that have come along over the years have gravitated to me. And I've not been good in sharing those with them. So you can't blame them when they say, why are we just now hearing this? I get it, okay? I get it, and I apologize because probably I should have, like when I got off the EMS Oversight Committee, I got off because, wow, that thing was not going in a direction where it was supposed to be going. But I never shared that, so I apologize to these guys because they're probably wondering now, why are we just hearing this stuff? And I can't blame them. I can't blame them.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks to fire chiefs. We appreciate the fire chiefs.
Yes. Don, before Parkview came in, how many ambulances did we have in service at any one time? 4. How did we end up getting down to 3 then?
That's not a question for me.
Okay.
My turn, we always had 4. We had 2 in Columbia City. We had 2 in Columbia City. We had Medic 11, Medic 12. Things changed. The management in the last few years changed how it worked, but at one time, you alternated runs, 11, 12, 11, 12. And then it was, no, 11 takes all the emergency runs and 12 takes all the transfers. And then neither of those are wrong. I'm just saying those were the kind of things. But we always had 4 people on duty in Columbia City at any one time, and 2 ambulances with a backup, with a 5th ambulance. So now, but okay, South Whitley and Cherubusco were staffed by volunteers. So it's different now because you have 3 ambulances. And they're staffed by fully, and quite frankly, if you go back to my recommendation 5 years ago, I said 3 ambulances are fine too, and they are. If you don't spend the time on the road going Fort Wayne, they are. 3 ambulances are okay, in my particular opinion.
A little while ago, there was reference to someone else possibly bidding on this contract. What assurances would we have, or how would we state it on the transfer business?
If you use this document, it's stated.
No transfers unless
it's stated in there. So regardless of who came in, this is what they're gonna base their proposal on.
Have any of the prospect, even I haven't been on any outside the Parkview. I've heard about Lutheran, but I can honestly say I have to this day never received a letter from Lutheran inquiring about it, or anyone else. However, if they would come in after looking at this, what if they say, no, we won't agree to that? But we will make transfers. Because somewhere along, I forget, I've gotten email stuff from a number of people and say, you know, the hospital makes money on transfers, right? And so if that's part of their profit, they're gonna wanna do that. So what assurances we have that anyone could live up to that contract, I guess is what I don't wanna be sitting here at October, November and trying to find someone to take over Whitley County MS when there's a number of things that's gonna have to transpire.
Can we go back? Can I answer your first question?
Sure. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
What assurance do we have that they'll, remember how you said it?
Will adhere to this part of the deal. In other words, if they're not one of these,
Yep.
and if we send a transfer ambulance out and say we have a accident out here and we don't have the truck to do it, it's still the transfer problem. It's still getting, we don't have 2 trucks or 2 ambulances and because we got one out on transferring. And you've said it takes at least 2 hours, right? For turnaround?
It does take
Okay.
2 hours.
I can appreciate that, probably by the time they get over there.
Well, we get a typical inter-hospital, I'm still wanna come back and answer your question, but the typical inter-hospital transfer, and anybody here that's been on EMS, I think you'll agree with me, starts with the dispatch. And with the dispatch, you're committed to that transfer unless a higher level run comes in before you leave the hospital. But reasonably, and I bet, I know these numbers can be backed up because of the CAD sheets, but reasonably, once you are notified you've got a transfer from Parkview Whitley to Fort Wayne, you drive your ambulance to the back door, you go inside, it is 20 to 30 minutes before the patient's ready to go. So you've lost a half an hour, 20 minutes to a half an hour from the get-go, and that was always a bone of contention too. Why don't you call us when you're ready and we'll come in? But otherwise, we're sitting here, and I have taken that empty cot and put it back in the ambulance and gone and made emergency runs. I've done that, because that takes priority over the transfer. So, I sure as heck wished I could remember your question. But I guess your question about where they won't wanna do it,
Well,
right?
yeah.
That's kind of what it boils down to.
What if one of the vendors say,
Then they shouldn't submit a proposal. They should not submit a proposal if they're not willing, or submit the proposal with an exemption or whatever they call it. And then we have to decide if we're willing to accept the exemption.
like I say, I don't wanna be one of the 3 sitting here with, we cannot come up to the conditions of that contract, and then we end up with no one. Then do we go back out and say, oh, we're sorry here, we beg of you to take this contract, or do something, and you're gonna get into a short length of rope.
I guess that's one of my concerns with the contract or the proposal that you've come up with. What happens if nobody wants to do it? And then, at what position does that put us in at that point?
I 5 years ago, right now, or 4, whatever it was, I showed everybody how it could be done. We could do it, and we could do it for less money than what Parkview had offered us at that time.
By doing that with the county, is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
it was a municipal service. Much like, I'm just telling you,
I know, Don, but
okay,
I just.
I'm not saying you have to like
Yeah.
it. You're just asking me the question.
Yeah.
I'm saying
Okay.
it can be done, and you can put a service together. You own the ambulances, you own the stretchers, you own the cardiac monitors. You just simply have to have people, and you've got a communication system, so it could easily be done.
Anymore, I don't think it's as simple as that. I just, it sounds great.
If I was in your shoes, I'd say the same thing, but please give me a little credit for 30 years' experience in the business. I find it an easy task, so.
Well,
I would find
and
it
I
an
look
easy
at the
task.
liability concerned in that, and
Sure, it's okay, that's the business side of it, I got it, I'm there, I'm just telling you it could be done, so.
Here's something that is a huge issue, okay, and especially for our county employees.
Okay.
Because of the fact that we have an agreement with Parkview on our insurance, we have Signature Care Insurance.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's a preferred provider insurance is
Yep.
basically what it is.
Yep.
If we would go to an outside source, whether it be Lutheran or another source doing our EMS runs, what happens at that point is the county isn't gonna incur any more cost. But each one of our employees, it's gonna be out of network, and they're gonna be paying.
Whoa, time out. Your assumption is they're not going to Parkview Whitley. Am I correct?
Yes. No, I'm just saying.
No, they have to.
No, here's what I'm saying though.
Okay,
is
okay.
that my assumption, if we do not use Parkview for EMS service.
Yep, I got you.
If that entity tries to, or bills our insurance at that time, which is a preferred provider insurance, that will be out of network. Anything after that at Parkview will be.
Excuse me, I got you.
Okay.
And I've never given any thought to that, so I totally understand what you're saying now.
And that's one of my big concerns with this too.
Okay.
is-
I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
And no sense kidding you, I don't have an answer, because I've never given that any thought.
And there are a majority of the employers in this area, large employers anyway, that use Parkview Preferred, because they give us a 55% discount.
Okay.
If that's done by another entity, that 55% discount goes away. I mean, we don't get that discount, because it is an out-of-network.
I don't know, I'm not gonna respond, because I don't know. I do not
And
know.
but that's
But
what
I would like information on that.
Okay.
I'd like to know that, if that's the case.
Yeah, but you can see where it'd be out of network. I mean, if I go to Kosciuszko County and I go to KCH there, it's an out of network, and I pay more as
You
an employee.
You do.
The county doesn't pay any more, but the
No, not
employees
the
are gonna pay
employees.
more.
Yeah, okay. I would say that would absolutely have to be something that could and should be negotiated in, simply because it affects every citizen in Whitley County. I don't mean that.
Yeah.
It certainly affects a great number of citizens.
Okay.
Randy, you had down, I don't wanna interrupt your
Go ahead.
conversation. On here that you made 8 transfers between 7 PM and 4:40 AM.
Correct.
Now, how is that possible if it takes 2 hours to make a transfer?
Because they stagger the ambulances, so if Medic 11 gets a transfer, they take it to Fort Wayne, they get partway back, Medic 41 will pick up and take the other patient, and then 11 will come back, and then 21 will stand by, and so they just stagger it, so they're constantly on the go.
It's basically passing.
It's multiple ambulances though, right, Randy?
Yes.
Correct.
That's not one ambulance.
No,
That's
no.
multiple
That's multiple
ambulances. So you're
ambulances.
actually down to one ambulance in the county
Yeah,
through that period too.
The Medic 41 was gone for over 10 hours
correct.
because he's switching ambulance. I don't like trucks, why not? He was switching
Because
from one to the other.
Right, because of standbys, because other trucks are out, or they are taking a transfer themselves.
But if we ask Parkview to man those transfer trucks,
I think if we ask Parkview, and we told them, we'll give you a truck strictly for transfers, and, you could take non-emergent transfers with that truck, you can staff it with, I'm sure there's plenty of EMS personnel that would wanna staff that extra truck, but, that they could take transfers, or they could call the Fort Wayne truck, which they've done in the past. But, save these 3 ambulances for emergencies. Occasionally I can understand taking an emergency transfer to Fort Wayne, but save these ambulances for emergencies. Don't be pulling them out of our communities.
okay. Well, Mr. Chairman, I wish I had some magical powder to put over this thing to try to, but maybe that's what we ought to
I guess-
ask within this, if it's needed, and it sounds to me like it is. We eliminate the transfers. And there's one other thing I think we as a group of people have to adhere by. And I've heard this from a number of people on county staff and outside county staff. And that's so much of anti-particular hospitals. Whether you go to Kosciuszko and listen to the people, it's anti-Lutheran, because that's who they have. Here we have Parkview, and it's anti-Parkview. And I just hope that in a decision that's being made by whoever, and I guess these three, that we could put that aside and do for best what's for Whitley County residents. And that might take some give and take. It will take give and take, a lot of give and take. But to me, it's solvable. What we do with EMS dispatch is another item. But that's going to come up also, and we need to do what's best for the county. And that's all I'm gonna say about it. I think it's mainly started with certain sides, certain people, and they're not all in this room. Oh no, there's some in this room, but a lot of it is from outside. And in 16 years as a commissioner, I think I've had one call concerning EMS. I sat on the board when the fellow from Missouri come in and made a presentation. We were right up to national and state laws, regulations. And I know this young man here put a lot of effort, a lot of time into EMS. Times have changed, kind of like education. People say, oh, don't you wish you were back in education? No, because I'd be in jail before the sun set, because there's certain things that go on with students that I don't agree with, you know. But we need to cut those and get down, kind of throw the chaff out, and let's get down to the grain now. And I think this is workable. I think you have a challenge. I have no, have you even talked to has anyone, probably not, from Lutheran contacted you?
No.
Has the attorney from Parkview contacted you?
I don't know who it would be even. I don't know who it would be.
Has the CEO or the director of Whitley County Hospital and director of EMS contacted?
No, nobody's, I haven't talked to anybody about this. I think there's a context everybody has to understand. Number one, about this sort of the disagreement, if that's what this is, or the divergent paths, so we understand what can be done and what can't be done legally. It has nothing to do with who the service provider is. But first of all, there's sort of two different paths which are being talked about today. They all get mixed together. The one path, what Don has put the work on and put together, is a bid proposal, a bid package. So if you want to do EMS, the idea would be that the two or the three or the four, hopefully multiple people would come in and bid based upon the specifications and the work Don has put together. The other path is you currently are under contract, and it's important to distinguish them because there's some ramifications, I think. You have a contract with Parkview that's up. It can be renegotiated. It doesn't have to be bid. This service does not have to be bid out. So, do you have more leverage to take these complaints to Parkview and negotiate them with Parkview, or do you have and get a better deal with Parkview, Or is the better leverage to go the path of the bids and see what falls out from that? They're really two different things, and they're two different decisions. You're gonna have to go probably one way or the other way, I suspect. Because, first of all, the question is, if you do bids, will Parkview even bid? I don't know. But beyond that, the question is, and they may, then the question is, okay, if you do the bidding, what are you gonna get? What are the prices? And that's the same if you negotiate with Parkview, by the way. Parkview may say, or they may say, okay, we'll do everything you want, and it's gonna cost you $500,000 a month, or I'm just throwing that number out, but so that's the reality of county government. And then the amount of money that you guys negotiate has got to be approved by some gentleman back here. So it's really hard for everybody, but because you say, okay, Dan, you can negotiate with Parkview, but what am I negotiating? Am I negotiating the service and or the price? I'm negotiating both, but we've got two arms here of government that have to approve it. It's the reality of government. So everything comes at a cost. You want the best service? Not the best, but you want a good service? Absolutely. What's it gonna cost? We don't know until we either negotiate or we bid. So that's the back and forth of this. Where's the most leverage? That's what you guys gotta decide. What's the best leverage for you to, one, get the price that you want, and two, get the service that you want? That's what it's all about. So,
Okay, I have a question for you.
yeah.
2 meetings ago, we decided that bid is an improper term, and everything in this document was changed to request for proposal based on your advice.
Yeah, I'm 66 years old, and I forgot the word request for proposal, so I just said bid, but it's request for
But
proposal.
it's totally different. Is
Well-
it not? Because it gives you some negotiations that a bid does not give you. At least
Yes,
that's
no,
what I thought you told us.
No, absolutely, that's true. But it's, if you get more than one in, Don, then you're in shifting sands. You gotta, so now you've got, so the question that Tom asked or proposed was, I got the point of it, which was good, which was, so what if neither bidder wants to follow, or request for proposal presenter wants to exactly follow the guidelines? And what if each one is different? Now you're back in the same position. You're negotiating with two parties, but it gets pretty complex. That you can use that to your advantage, and that can work to your disadvantage. So I say it gets back to this decision first. Is it better to go that way, or is it? And I'm not suggesting by my posing of the question that I have an answer. Is it better to use the leverage and negotiate with the person you have to deal with now, or the entity? That's all I'm saying. But yeah, you're right. There's negotiation allowed in a request for proposal. A bid came out of my mouth.
I'm going on record, I'm telling you right now, I don't care who the provider is. I do not care. If it's Parkview, that's great. I couldn't be happier. But regardless of who it is, we need to make some changes in the service. And that's what I'm really asking here. Everybody's sitting here saying, yeah, he got fired by Parkview 5 years ago. Yeah, that's water over the dam. That's gone. I simply want to watch out for the citizens of Whitley County and provide them with a service that probably only in my mind, but it's in my mind, we don't offer the same level of care that we offered even 10 years ago. And I just simply want to offer a better level of service to the citizens of the county, and I could care less who the provider is.
But what my point is, not to you, but to all three of you, is there's gonna be a price tag on that. And that's these guys.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I guess in seeing all the information that we've got from Dan, from other entities, what I'd like to do at this point was I'd like to entertain a motion that we consider an extension to Parkview, but with Dan doing some negotiations as far as the transfers. And are there any other issues other than the transfers that we really have that?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do that, then probably now's the time to, I don't mean now, but what are you gonna do about, I know what I told you about communications, but I reserve the right to change my mind too. So,
Mhm.
so we got communications we gotta deal with.
Okay.
And the service, so, I just wanna make sure that those are all in this time we're gonna, if we're gonna do this extension, I just wanna make sure we talk about all the elements
Okay.
before we go on. And what
And
do you
the
think?
communication should be a part of this.
What are you thinking on extension?
Well, I would say, look, by the 18th of next month, do you think you could come up with some kind of a agreement or
Well, sure, but then it'd be the agreement according to Dan, which everybody would dislike. I would want to know some bullet points that.
We can come up with that.
That you guys come up with, that you want to, have to be in the deal, or the deal has to change. I think you need to start with, you start with your strongest foot forward and say, okay, we're unified on this, we need this change, we need this change, we need this change. I did go through the contract, I don't even remember now, but I made notes on to take care of some of the complaints that I heard coming down the line. There's about 5 different paragraphs that would have to be changed, added to, so and you guys look after maybe more than that, but yeah, to write something, I'm gonna need to, now I've heard enough here obviously to know some of the concerns, but I don't know what Don knows about transfers and how long they take and how the wording should be, and I can take some of it from the specs he did. But, so, yeah.
Not specs, they're.
Yeah, I know.
requests for proposal. Right. Based on our attorneys.
You're
based
feeding
on
me
our
my own words
attorneys'
back. It's
advice.
completely unfair to feed my
You want
words
some salt and
back to
pepper?
me. Yeah. But you're right about it. I just can't think of it that fast.
I just love needling you.
So, but yeah, I'm gonna need input, but yeah, I'll make it fast track. I mean, I'll work really hard to get it done within 30 days, easily, hopefully, 2 or 3 weeks, I'd say.
And then at that point, we would have an opportunity to approve or disapprove of what you came up with, Parkview, is that?
Right, I think, we're gonna need to sit down with Parkview, if that's what you're gonna do, and meet with the 3 of you and a couple of their representatives, not necessarily the lawyers, to understand.
Yeah.
I don't think you want lawyers involved, and say, look, this is what we're gonna need, this is what we're gonna do, and see what their responses are, and see where they're soft, and see where they're tough, and then come back and kinda get your own consensus on how we should draft that stuff, or, I mean, what should be in it, what requirements should be in it, and then I can draft it from there.
Because my concern is that we really haven't approached Parkview with our concerns on this, and we need to
Right.
come up with some kind of a solution, if they're willing to come up with some kind of a solution, and work on
Everybody.
cost, service,
Right,
and transfers. That's the.
Everybody in the contract is willing to negotiate to keep the contract. I assume it's just what are the terms and what is the
Right.
cost. I mean, you're gonna get some things you want, and some things are gonna be modified, and then you're gonna have to figure out if you can afford what you ask for.
Right.
And I don't know how all that's gonna work in, but we've heard such things as, and I think Don was another one today, that the care or the EMS just isn't as good as what it used to be. The level of care, the training of the people that we put on, maybe they should have some field training, or, kind of like, beginning training or something out in the field before. But I don't want to get into where we tell, 'cause I don't know, Don would know, how to educate their people when they're ready to go out on the ambulance.
Well, this
But
document.
I
those
don't
are-
wanna go there either.
This
But those are all things, that are or at least a concern to me when I hear, hey, the people we're getting on the ambulance today really don't have the background to be there. It's kinda like I can relate to the teaching field, you know, you find out more in teaching your first 6 weeks than you only found out in 4 years. But those are concerns too that I've heard, but I don't know how you do. That's up to the people that's manning the system, whether it's Lutheran, Northwest Indiana, Parkview,
Right, I mean,
Aetna, whoever it is.
What's the name of the outfit that does the tax, or taxing? Okay, we don't tell SRI how to set up their program and hire their people, so that this agreement wouldn't do that, but it would require certain things based upon what you tell me need to be required, and then they can decide if they're willing to meet that or not, and if not, where they're gonna meet us in between, so, and then you can see if it's a better deal or not.
The other side to that statement though is we also don't buy county highway trucks without telling the vendors what we want. We don't rely on them to
Absolutely,
sell us a
yeah.
pickup truck when we need
Right.
a tandem axle. So
Right.
somewhere along the line, there's gotta be some give and take. That's
Yeah.
all I'm saying. I'm
No,
not-
absolutely, I think that's true. I wasn't trying to say that's
No,
not
no,
the
no,
case,
I just
but
wanna make
no,
sure though,
yeah.
there should be some give and
Right,
take.
right.
I would go one more step, and it's not me, I'm not doing it, but I would say somebody absolutely needs to make contact with Lutheran to see if they even are interested in the proposal. I really do, I think somebody should, we're sitting here speculating, why are we speculating? Let's just simply ask them if they are interested.
Yeah, you know, that's your guys' call.
I made a promise to Commissioner Schrump probably 2 years ago, after I was contacted by them. I didn't go to them, they came to me. I told Commissioner Schrump about it, you got a letter from him. And he asked me to not discuss it with them anymore, and I have not discussed it with them. But I get these little vibrations that they're still.
I did not ask them to not to discuss it. I asked them to discuss it with all 3 commissioners at the same time.
Oh, okay, well, I
That's
just
what
knew that I wasn't gonna be,
Okay.
I wasn't gonna be the single guy to do that. So I think we should, find out if there's even any interest there.
Well, I mean, those 2 tracks can be taken at the same time. It should be probably, there's not a lot of time, guys, I mean, you're talking
So that's why we need to
8 months now.
make a decision
Well, I
here.
think we need to bring those people, Parkview, that's responsible, their EMS and decision making. We bring them in, this is what we want, can you do it? Let's have a discussion, we're just sitting here supposed, bring Lutheran in, bring Northwest Indiana, whoever might, but we don't know that if we don't contact and say, you interested to talk with us.
Maybe
If you-
Brandon would wanna do that too with the.
Brandon could also do
I
that.
think he
And
could.
that's who is responsible.
You're funny, Dave.
Where are we?
Right now, we're to the point where we've got to make a decision on how we want to go forward, and the only way to go forward is we have to come to some kind of agreement. My proposal was to make sure that Dan knows our concerns, have Dan go to Parkview, let them know our concerns, and come up with some kind of an agreement. And also, I guess at this time, we need to get a hold of Lutheran and see if they're even interested in it. At the time that I did get the letter, they were interested in it. So I guess, but that was like 3 years ago.
Well, what I would suggest doing on the Parkview side, the Lutheran side, one of you guys are gonna have to take care of, but who I would say I would call would be Pete Mallers, cause he's outside counsel with them, he's been coming in here doing,
Right.
those legal documents. I would guess that if he didn't do it, he would send, and I would just say, hey, I'm calling on the EMS contract, I'm preparing a proposed contract, do I send it to you or who do I send it to, just so I have a contact? I don't even know who I would talk to over there now. I don't know if it's on their corporate staff or on their outside counsel staff, and that's the first thing we gotta determine.
Yeah, I'm
And
not
maybe
sure.
their EMS director will know, but.
I've heard it a couple of times, and I think, I think the proper thing to do, quite frankly, is to bring the local people in with us and talk.
No, I think that's probably the fastest way to.
I got nothing against Pete Mallers, but I don't know that I want two attorneys talking about EMS.
I'm with you, I'm good with that.
So are we talking
I would-
about an executive session then?
Yeah,
To bring,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. No, I'm very happy to
Is
do
that
it
legal?
that way.
Is that legal,
Okay.
Jana? For the purpose of contract negotiation?
She's not your lawyer, I am.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that legal, Janet?
You cannot discuss a contract in an executive session because it's
Even if we
taxpayer
didn't
money.
make a decision on it? I mean, we're not making decision, all we're getting is discussion.
We're talking to personnel.
I'll shoot you
Stretch
guys
it.
an email tomorrow, let me read the statute again, make sure
Okay.
I do. And then I'll ask Janet for her permission, and we're good to go.
Okay, so at this point, we're gonna try to get Parkview and hear local people.
I think that's the proper thing.
Okay.
You sit down and
Okay, Tom,
get started with it.
are you agreeable with that? Okay. Okay. We'll move forward with that with Dan then, and we do appreciate all the input, Randy, Tom, Amy, Sheriff's Department, anything, Janelle, thank you. And any concerns that you have at this point, please, we appreciate it.
And to all of us.
Everyone, yes.
Yeah, if you want to send an email, send a letter, whatever, please send it to all three commissioners and not just me. Thank you.
Okay, minutes. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at the minutes?
Which ones?
March 7th, regular commissioner minutes at this point.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
It was pretty voluminous, but I didn't catch anything.
Tom, I want to see if Tom caught what I caught.
Oh, very good, guys.
Did you find anything?
I did on the one.
Yeah, that was the executive session and I fixed that.
Says Commissioner
Okay.
Flake started. in
Yeah, I saw
prison.
that one, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I contact her and ask her up there on one of these.
And I did, if you wanna check, I did correct it right there.
The regular meeting, I would make a move that it be approved. You weren't here.
Oh, it's just you and I, regular meeting, it's you and I.
Discussion? I do have a spelled word here.
Oh, no. No spell check?
Right,
I missed
right above,
my I.
yeah. Position is, I had to get that before Tom did.
Well, I think technically, I think a hold is to.
Okay.
Did you go off and vote? What'd you do?
Okay. Okay.
You can't do much, cause you
No,
weren't even here, so.
I'm gonna call for the vote, or for a, motion for approval of the March 7th regular meetings.
I made that. Is there-
Okay, we've got a second?
Second for discussion.
Okay, we got discussion.
We wanna know why you weren't here.
Why I wasn't here?
Yeah.
There were
I'm
a
just
couple
kidding.
of, there were
I'm
a
just-
couple of reasons.
I bet you were just sitting around somewhere. I seconded it, I'm sorry.
Okay,
So,
all those in favor, raise your right hand. Whoops, I can't vote. I
No, you
abstain.
can't.
I abstain.
2-0.
Okay. Okay,
We'll just wait till the very end.
okay, minutes of, we had bid opening also that day, March 7th, for highway bids.
I'll make a motion, we
Approval.
approve the minutes of the, special session.
Second?
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I will abstain. Vote 2-0 with one abstention. Okay, let's go ahead and sign them.
You still have the executive session, correct, to approve?
Do we have to approve the executive session on that?
I don't know. Well, let. No topic
Do we
was
have to
discussed,
approve?
no decisions were
Okay,
made.
okay, we had an executive session also regarding a personnel matter and, motion to approve minutes.
I have a motion to approve the executive session.
Second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Can I vote that one? I was there two-thirds of the time.
Only your elbow. You can only put your elbow up, you can't put your arm up.
Okay, those in favor raise your right hand, opposed the same. This one, do you want me, or is it these?
You-
Okay.
you know, yep.
You guys got solid waste at 5. Can I stay and bill through that?
Oh,
I don't
jeez.
care.
Let your conscience be your guide.
I think you're able to go. There's
All right.
not much more coming up here except for claims. Thank you, Dan.
Okay,
We
I'll be in
appreciate it.
touch with all of you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, thanks to Tom.
I'll think of you next week when I'm sitting on the beach. Well, probably not.
Don't forget.
That could be a lie.
Cameras, and these guys crimp my style when they show up. Things I normally say.
Okay, next thing on the agenda is claims. We have claims for check runs of 316 and 321, 309. Tom and I both did claims Friday. I didn't see anything improper at all. Tom, did you see anything? Okay.
No.
Actually, they're doing a real good job. Real good job.
That's what I thought, too. Everybody been notified about the new mileage, though? That
Yes.
We got that under control, okay.
And also about the, this, what was that, the, fuel surcharge? Is that what it
Yeah,
is?
fuel
Yep,
surcharge,
I
yeah.
notified them.
Was it you that called me or Nowak that called me? I got a response from him.
Did you?
Yeah. This was late February, right?
Mhm.
And Sharon from Nowak called and said, oh, it still goes for February, but she says we stopped on March 1st. They quit adding fuel surcharges on March 1st, so we did some good, you know.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor raise your right hand, opposed the same. Thank you. Pam?
I just have one thing, request for permission to use county facilities. Commissioner Rethlick was contacted by the Old Settlers Association and wanted to know if Tuesday, June 21st through Saturday, June 25th, they could use the courthouse square and grounds for the 2016 Old Settlers Festival.
Motion approved.
Got a motion?
Second.
Got a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor raise your right hand, opposed the same. Thank you.
Did you contact
you.
Mark?
Yes.
Can't you amazing
Thank
turn
you.
that one down?
Yeah, turn that one down.
That's all I had, Commissioner Fix. That's all I had, thank you.
Okay, Jana?
Okay, I have two utility permits. The first one is from NIPSCO, and Brandon did review this one, and he has approved it. You wanna take a look at it?
Well, it came, it was given to me and I need to disseminate it to all you guys, so.
Okay, we got, County Road 600 East at Angwer Ditch for the purpose to install 310 feet of 6-inch steel gas main below the ditch. Remove the gas line, remove it from the bridge is what they're gonna do. From NIPSCO. that was approved by drainage this morning.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion to approve, we've got a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor raise your right hand, opposed the same. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, and the second one that I have is called Transmission Utility Network, Indiana LLC, I believe. Yeah. And, Brandon did review this one, and this one he did not approve. And if you wanna elaborate on that a little bit, of why.
Yeah,
Well,
sir.
there's more than one question, but what they're proposing is to put a 120-foot tall tower, a few feet off the edge of the pavement out at 400 East and Park 30 Drive, or 8020 in the, Five Star. At the, southeast corner of that intersection, and I just have some questions about, what liability we could, pick up with that being put in the right of way, and
I think that's it.
it's
Barely see the lines.
possibly even questionable if where they're proposing it is in the right of way, because, 8020 actually owns to the center line of 400 East. So, it's a new technology for the area. I think it sounds really good because they're proposing to increase bandwidth. But
Is that in conjunction with Verizon or somebody, or
I
how?
am not sure who they're working with. I mean, and they have not contacted me. And I don't know if any of you have been contacted. It's kind of odd that they would propose something like that without making contact first. I did learn today that they are also proposing to put one of those on North Line Street, in the vicinity of, O'Reilly and Hardy. So,
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we ask Brandon to contact them back and get all the facts before we take any action on that permit. Is that okay, Brandon?
yep, that sounds good.
You can ask the right questions.
Okay, I've got a motion, we got a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor raise your right hand, opposed the same. You okay with that then, Brandon?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm glad you questioned it. I'm glad we don't just push it on through. That's a good
Yeah.
question. Especially it's a little scary if we don't know for sure it's not in the right of way.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. And if
No.
it's not in the right of way, then it falls under
Well,
the
our
zoning
plow
jurisdiction.
hits it, knocks it over or something, so.
It's kinda like with the turbines, the ice throw from it, or if ice
Yep.
came down and hit somebody.
Yep.
What do we do with that?
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
sorry, these two.
Oh.
Also need to-
Only saw like 9,000, I mean, you know how many there are, you drive 24 from the west end of Illinois to Indiana.
Oh, okay.
We got 3?
One more, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
And that was it for me.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ruthlake?
I think anything I might have had has been discussed. Thank you.
Commissioner Amber?
Oh, I think we talked about everything I could ever think of. Except I do want you to know that while I am in Florida, I will think about you up here.
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
Oh, yeah. No, I've got it on my day. I got it on my smartphone right here.
Let me see what I had here. Dispatch CAD system, I think the Sheriff's Department is still working on that. They've got one more, the 22nd, they've got, tomorrow they've got, are you gonna be there for that then? Okay. Okay, another, demonstration.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna be there. I apologize.
Yep.
Have any of us had the opportunity to sit down with Amy and talk?
I have.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. Just so one of us
Yeah,
talk to her.
it's been
Okay.
very enlightening.
Okay, appreciate that.
And I think probably Amy should talk to all of us a lot of good
Sure.
information on the CAD system.
She really has a lot of input, so,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess
Yeah.
I have not sit down and
Some
talked
good
to her, but I know
information.
She does.
If you just to listen to some of the, so she's got some good points there. Annex building roof, $100,000, sooner than later. Right now, Mark Sturdivant said that there's water underneath, I guess it's a concrete roof, and then between the concrete and the next insulation layer is water filled right now, so we're getting no insulation value out of that. And he's looking at going to a different type of roof rather than the rubber roof. They're all going away from the rubber roofs and going to a welded roof. It's a plastic is what it is that they're using now. But he's letting us know that it's coming up. We thought maybe it was gonna be a 2 to 3 year issue, and, you know, I don't think it's not leaking, but there's no insulation value, and there is water underneath that. They had it.
We put a peak roof on for less than $100,000.
I wonder about that.
That's a good idea. I don't know. I have
Yeah.
no clue.
Let's ask him and see what he says.
It wouldn't have to be high pit now, 3-foot pitch maybe.
Yeah.
Enough to make the water come off.
Yeah, and snow.
I think one thing he said was something about the air conditioning units being up there. Are those air conditioners up on top of that?
Well, they could be, because I don't remember seeing them around the sides
Yeah.
anywhere.
I think that's the biggest issue is the air conditioning unit.
Yeah, it could be.
So I wanted you to know about that. DCS keeps calling me, this Yumi Goodman, about what are we gonna do? Can we do anything with the annex building? They wanna expand, they're expanding 6 to 8 people, and they need to know what we're gonna do, or if we can do anything, so that they don't have to go out and start looking for buildings.
Well, I'm glad the newspaper's gone. I apologize to any of those in the crowd, but I honestly believe that the answer lies in moving Purdue Extension to the fairgrounds. I really do.
Yeah.
The west end of the building up the hill could be made into offices.
Yeah.
And that still leaves you 2 really large open rooms for anything else.
Where would you get the money for it, though? I guess.
We get the money for it? Oh, are you
That's
serious? We'd have to.
Yeah.
Did you
I
say
don't,
rent from
I'm
them?
not
No,
sure.
No, me neither.
They don't rent
These
from
are-
us, no. We provide that space for them, whether we're required to
Well, I think
provide.
we need to see an agreement or something and to see if that's the case. I guess
Would you see
honestly.
if you've got anything on that?
Honestly, I didn't know that. I guess I thought, I knew we didn't get rent from them, but I can't imagine that we need to, anyhow.
Yeah.
If DCS is really a good customer, then I say we really sit down in good faith and talk to them about the rest of that annex building and ask Purdue Extension to, they're gonna have a new director if they don't have it already, and ask them to consider a move somewhere.
Okay. Also, we're getting like $3,000 a month for that space that they're in, but we'd have to build out whatever they wanted office space, which shouldn't be that big of a deal. I imagine we could even put the panels up, the partitions up to do that.
No.
You know, I'm not sure
They have a
about
big,
privacy issue.
No, they have a big confidentiality
Yeah,
issue, so,
yeah.
no, you probably couldn't.
But
do
right
that.
now, their director is using the closet for an office.
Yeah, well, no, I know, and it's sort of a financial thing. If they're paying us good money,
Yeah.
I just.
Yeah, I'd hate to lose that.
Imagine how much we'd save in mileage fees from the annex to the fairgrounds.
Mhm.
We get those mileage.
To me, it's the
bills.
frustration of
Oh, it's
seeing that.
frustrating. 1 mile, 36 cents, pay me. Okay.
Also, we talked about the sheriff with the VHF radio situation that, and that's gonna have to be dealt with here. I have J&K's coming in here when you get back on the 18th, I think,
Okay.
is that what it is, the next meeting,
Okay.
the second meeting in
Mhm.
April?
And again, I hate to keep loading on her, but I'd at least like to have Amy's input on this whole radio issue.
Yeah.
Amy, you guys are all 800 in Fort Wayne, right? Everything?
We are.
Everything's 800.
And we've been 800 for nearly 15 years.
Okay.
And the only experience of problems that we have, which are consistent with VHF as well, is anytime you're in a structure that's concrete or has specific security features to be
Yeah.
steel or lead, you have some outbound problems. But the solution for that is then to go radio to radio, which is always the solution should you encounter that. I'm
So-
sorry, I'm on the wrong side of the point.
What's it- but so if you were inside a structure, you could receive information to get out?
Yes, absolutely.
That's, so,
That's
okay.
You hear a audible tone,
Yep.
which tells you your signal's not getting out.
Oh.
Right now, what the county sheriffs are experiencing is they don't know they're not being heard.
Oh, okay.
So they're transmitting,
Alright.
and as
Alright.
a result of their transmission, they're not getting anything, so they're moving to different quadrants and spots. Literally, it looks kinda like they're looking for a signal, to be able to get that transmission, and,
Okay.
that's extremely concerning and, quite honestly, a huge liability, given we just had 2 officers shot at Kokomo.
I think I was telling George earlier today, I worked a shift for TRA one time because they had a funeral, a staff member died, and so a bunch of us volunteered to work. And the part I couldn't understand with their radios was you heard yourself talking. Do you experience that?
You have that if you, it's no different than in the speaker system in this room. If you had the volume control up on these other, speakers
Yeah.
on the TVs,
Yeah.
you would get reverberation. 800, the renovations that have been made to 800 over the progression is that once you key the microphone up, you hear a did-did-did-did,
Yep.
and that then gives you clearance for the radio. And other people hear that activation as well. It's so that you don't begin talking and are covered on the radio system because of that. Any feedback is a result 100% of volume control from other radios having interference.
Oh,
But it's-
other radios?
Other radios having
I
interference,
see.
but that does
Okay.
not mean your
Okay.
signal and your communication is not
Right.
outbound to the
No, but that's
communications.
very distracting when you're trying to talk on the radio and you hear yourself talking back and you,
I
yeah.
hate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so,
absolutely.
okay, I didn't know if that was an inherent problem with 800 or not,
Sure.
so.
And by all means, I'm not a technical expert, but do have quite a bit of experience and have worked through a lot of pitfalls, if you will,
Well, I
leading
think
up to this
15
point,
years'
so-
experience using them helps a lot, you know, so.
Sure. Maybe
Yeah.
at least some right questions to ask, if nothing else.
Okay, thank you, and
You
I'm
bet.
sorry, I know when you find a horse, you're not supposed to ride it till it's dead, I apologize, but
That's all right, that's
you
why I'm
are a
here.
wealth of knowledge, so. I was born at
Tim,
night, but not last night.
Radios are getting to be a huge issue for us because, you know, we're gonna be required to go to 800 and we went from 800, from VHF to 800, now we're back to VHF and they're having all kinds of issues with that. We never, since we got J&K on board, we still, there are a lot of issues that we need to deal with that,
I
we-
think we changed that when, Mark,
Hodges.
The other sheriff is involved in
Yeah,
it.
Yeah.
yeah. But we spent that $360,000 and it's just been a huge issue for us since then.
And even that complaint was because something bad had happened. I don't know if that's when the winds went through here, but the complaint was, oh, we had everybody talking on the radio, so that wasn't an everyday issue.
But you need to talk to Amy about that too, and she's got some knowledge on
Oh,
that.
okay, good,
also.
okay, that's fine. Well, I agree with that, I agree with that.
Okay, anything else from anyone?
Public?
Call, public?
I have one.
Okay,
Just short.
yes.
If you're gonna bring that, highway department, job, in council,
Yes.
make sure you got a dollar figure with it.
Oh, sure, yeah,
Yep.
you betcha.
Yeah.
'Cause I know it wasn't really discussed on that part of it, but just so we got an idea.
Just a recommendation, and then you guys can go with that after that, okay?
Just so we
Although
kinda
it would-
know where he's at.
Wouldn't be a bad idea to get some input from them,
Yeah,
though,
probably
too.
beforehand, we need to have
Yeah,
some input
you
from
guys
you,
might
because
wanna-
we're gonna be going to Brandon and expressing, you know, what our thoughts are on this, so.
I know by talking, well, matter of fact, I've talked to everybody on the council about this. Some of the concerns, is he moving his office down there, or is he gonna try to operate up there, or how it's all gonna work, and
Yeah.
who's gonna answer them questions? Is Brandon gonna answer that, where he's gonna move, or is it
Has
gonna be
to.
up to you guys telling him where he can move or where he can't move, or?
It'll be a combination thereof, I think, rather than.
Yeah, I know
I
the
just-
questions we have to have answered, and I,
Just some questions in that part of it.
Yeah.
Thing I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
my personal opinion is, I don't think he has to be in that building. But he sure as heck has to be available, so.
So he'll have a radio, I take it that they can call him, that'll get through this building and.
Well, I hope
he-
so. Yep,
he can
yep,
Stay in
yep.
contact with them.
Yeah. 'Cause most of the day, he'd be there alone. I don't mean alone, cause you'd have, Karen there, but I
Right,
mean,
right.
he wouldn't have guys he'd have to have a radio. Yeah, he'll have to have a radio.
They're on 800, aren't they? Remember we spent $30-some thousand to put them on 800, and then, but I don't think we switched them back.
They are back on VHF.
Are they really?
Confirmed that with Janelle the other day. So,
Do we know what happened to those radios?
that's one of those groups I need to be accountable for. I just haven't reached out to the highway department yet.
Okay, call for the motion.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Thank you. Joanne, did you have anything? I'm sorry.
No, I've just missed the entertainment.